Hello, Lorcana YouTube community. I have an awesome gameplay match to show you guys. It is super intense. This is actually going to be the finals that happened at the Store Set Championship at the Stronghold Games located in Donna, Texas. We had 31 players come out. Huge shout out to them. They actually sponsored me when I traveled to the North American Championship. So again, huge shout out to them. For also letting me record the finals match. I actually got all the way to the finals with this Sapphire and Steel Hannah Montana deck list, and my homie Tristan was using this Amber Steel Songs deck. And honestly, this match is super crazy. I really can't wait to commentate it and look back and see how this match happened. But yeah, we're going against Steel Song, and I'm using Sapphire and Steel. And for the most part, Sapphire and Steel has a very good matchup into Amber Steel, more so the Songs version, just because since they're not playing daisies and have a less aggro approach, that makes it easier for this deck to combat. And pretty much as the Sapphire and Steel player, you want to be able to just get a 2-drop on the board and then put out your Fishbone Quill. That way you can ramp and put on some pressure with big bodies like Tinkerbell and Simba. So as you can see here, I was on the play. I did have a higher seed than him, and I know it's a little bit glary in the top left corner, but I was able to open up with the Fishbone Quill, and I had to fire the cannons to stop his Robin Hood shift line. The fire the cannons is very powerful in this matchup, just because again you get to destroy their shift line. So as you can see there, he inked his Robin Hood, and now he's questing with the Smee. And this is the perfect position you want to be in, right? As a Sapphire and Steel player, you already opened up your Popsicle, you have your Fishbone Quill out, you put the Hiram out, and then once Hiram's on board, they're just never going to get rid of it. And now I get to pretty much be in the state that I want to be at. Have Hiram, have a Smee out, and how next turn I'm already going to go to 8 ink while my opponent's barely going to go to 4. So at this point, all my big bodies are live. Again, Tinkerbell, Simba, Hades, Arthur, and I can just start fighting the board back after I already set up. And my opponent's pretty much in a bad spot, not having any singers on board, and that's the whole point of the deck. So here he's just gonna decide to quest out, and he's just thinking about his next move. While he's thinking about that, again, this deck list that I use, Hannah Montana, I get to incorporate Whole New World and No New World engines, packages, put the deck together, put both of those best worlds together, and I have that awesome early board tempo control curve that the No New World features, and then we're playing cards like Whole New World that way as a plan B against our Ruby matchups. So I really do like this deck a lot. It's super strong, super consistent. As you can see here, I get the Tink out. Trade for Smee. The Tinkerbell kills the other Smee. He played a Pete, but honestly, that Pete's just not going to do anything. So at this point, I'm just going to keep drawing cards with Hiram, and I'm already setting up even more ink for next turn to be at 10, and my opponent's barely going to be at 5 ink. And again, you just need to have that Fishbone Quill out in this matchup. It's just super important, just because the big bodies in this deck are what Amber Steel is going to have a trouble getting rid of, just because like only like a card like Along Came Zeus can kill anything with 5 willpower like that Tinkerbell. I had to fix the camera up a bit. It was kind of hard to tell how the angle was, so I'm sorry if I even made it worse, and it made it a little bit scuffed, but it's okay. We can still see what's happening here. But again, right, with Sapphire and Steel, you just want to be able to just bring out bodies and ramp. So as you can see here, this is pretty much going to be the nail in the coffin. I did get to drop that location. 2 more bodies to contest the board. My opponent did play that Robin Hood, but I mean at this point, he's gonna have to put bodies out and be able to sing more songs just with that one singer. So here he decides to just hard cast the Along Came Zeus to get rid of my Tinkerbell. A nice move on his end, and gets to quest with that Robin Hood. He's probably thinking that I'm gonna have to 2-for-1 him to get rid of the Robin Hood. That Hiram is just staying on board always. It's already drawn me like I believe 6 cards, and he's gonna have to answer that manner eventually. As you can see here, I play the Hades, get rid of his Robin Hood. Calhoun trades with the Pete, gain some more lore. And at this point, this board is just very scary. Not sure what my opponent can do here, and I think he knows it, and he's going to go ahead and scoop for that game 1. Now we're going to game 2. My opponent's going to go first. And in a best of 3, I'm pretty much just in a good spot, just because I'm like, okay, well, if I lose here, it's fine. I get to go first on game 3. But that's not the mentality that you should have. You need to go for that 2-0. So in the mulligan, on the draw going against Amber Steel, knowing he's not playing Daisy, I want to make sure I open up Pyre of the Cannons, open up a Smee Calhoun, and then again some ramp. and then of course a Hiram, right? But the main thing is fire the cannons and your fishbone quill more than the Hiram, if anything. And that way you can see I'm kind of looking at what I want to send back. I am keeping that fire the cannons. I'm just gonna look for a 2-drop and that fishbone quill just to fight the board back. And I had the popsicle. I believe I have a Hiram fire the cannons. Gonna go ahead and send 4 back. As you can see there, I did draw into the sail, and that's perfect for me. Because if your opponent on the draw goes Robin Hood, Cindy, that fire the cannons are gonna take it out, and we're pretty much gonna try to replicate what we did in that first game. In this list, I'm not playing Cogsworth, so that's not something that I'm going to be looking for. That is really good on the draw into Amber Steel, but again, with this deck in particular, I don't believe you need Cogsworth. I'd rather just focus on playing big bodies, and in the turns where I would play Cogsworth, I mean, you can just play a Pete. So here I'm just deciding if I want to Popsicle. I do have the Fire of the Cannons, but I have the Sail in my hand. And the reason why I was contemplating is, well, maybe I can just wait a turn to see if that changes, because you want to make your opponent change their plays. So I was thinking like maybe I can just sell next turn and then activate fire the cannons, but every lore matters. So I go ahead and fire the cannons, get rid of it. And right now I'm in a good spot because that 2-drop that my opponent played is a Ursula, and that Ursula is not going to kill anything, and it's only going to gain 1 lore. So the fact that I was able to remove the Robin Hood again, he's inking the shift line that he had. So such a beautiful play on my part just to disrupt him. And I get to ramp, and now I'm already going to be at 4 ink, making my Hirams live, making pretty much everything live at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and play, ink the Sail, play Fishbone Quill out, and get that Calhoun on board. Calhoun is such strong into this matchup because it does have resist, and I get to play the Fishbone Quill. So just in case my opponent does Whole New World me or tries to fight back, the Quill's going to punish him for giving me a new hand and being able to go to 7 ink the following turn. And then I do have that Calhoun there just to kill anything where he does decide to kill that Ariel, sorry, if he does decide to sing. So he has 3 Whole New Worlds. He did brick on his part, and he's going to get a whole new 7 cards. And just what I wanted, right? I have the Fishbone Quill. Next turn, I'm going to go to 7 ink, and that pretty much makes all my bodies outside of Tamatoa alive. He does draw into a Zeus, and that Ursula does come back and actually puts in some work to sing that Zeus, which is quite unfortunate, getting rid of that Calhoun. But it's fine. My opponent's barely going to be, not even at any, barely going to be at 1 lore. He plays a Rapunzel just to put some lore pressure on board, and now I have 7 cards in my hand. So here I'm deciding what to do here, and I think if I remember correctly, I don't really have any crazy bodies to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and just ink a couple cards, get rid of that Ariel, and play 2 to play Smee. Now, ideally, in that spot, you would want to play Pete and a Smee. Not so much the Zeus to get rid of the Ariel, because with the Pete and the Smee, I get to put 2 bodies on board to fight back and stop him from questing. And then after that, having 2 bodies, going back to my turn, I can put 2 more bodies out and now have 4 bodies. But this is going to be pretty slow. I did not really get the best cards I needed for that situation. Again, having a Pete or just 2 Calhouns or a Smee would have been better than just hard casting the Alarm Cane Zeus, but unfortunately I didn't really get too good of a 7. So my opponent here just thinking what he wants to do. He's gonna let the Storm the Rage on his own Rapunzel, and at this point he just wants to draw more cards and put more lore pressure on the board, because he probably notices that that turn that I had was pretty weak. So here, back to my turn, I'm looking at how much ink I have. I do have a Pete in my hand and a Tamatoa, and I think that's it along with the Hades. And with the amount of ink that I have, I can't go Hades and Pete because I'm only going to be at 9, which is very unfortunate. If I would have been at 10, the Pete and the Hades would have been awesome. But now I'm kind of just thinking, well, what do I do here? If I, oh no, I'm at 8 ink. Okay, no. So yeah, the beautiful play here is to, yeah, it looks like that's pretty much all I can do here. Very interesting. I probably would have tried to play the Pete and Hades, but it looks like I can only go to 9, 10. I'm not sure. Interesting. I'm not sure if that was a misplay unless I missed something there. But definitely playing the Hades and the Pete would have probably been a better move just to fight back, unless I couldn't have. But I play a Tamatoa here thinking, okay, I need to set up some type of board control and a big body, potentially a Singer, because I do have that Whole New World in my hand. And my opponent here just thinking what he wants to do. So if he does play a Pete here on this part, that's going to be very strong for him. He does play a Long Cane Zeus and then Strength of the Raging Fire to get rid of my Tamatoa. That's going to be huge to pretty much shut me down. He's going to put more bodies on the board. Now at this point, I think I have to go Hades Pete here just to like stop him from doing a couple of things because it's getting out of hand. So I'm gonna go ahead and Hades one thing, play a Pete, and now I got 3 bodies on board. So the Pete's gonna be helpful here just because again it's gonna shut him down from trying to remove my guys. And now I'm gonna have 3 guys to fight back, and I do have that whole new world in my hand to be able to sing it and potentially draw into like a Tinkerbell swords and do some crazy stuff next turn. So here my opponent is going to play the Simba, which is such a strong card here. When this card quests and at the end of the turn he is exerted, everything else on his board gets to ready. So here I go ahead and play Visions of the Future, just trying to find something in order to combat that Simba. But I think last turn I inked a whole new world, and that's probably my second misplay of the match because I had to get rid of that Simba. I just did not play around it. I did not know he was playing that card. So me inking the whole new world is going to punish me here just because I did not draw an answer for that Simba, and he's going to be able to quest for free and then pretty much exert at the end of the turn. And if he has a Pete here, that's just going to seal the deal, which that's what he does, and everything just gets readied up on my turn. I'm thinking what I can do here, but honestly, with that P, it's going to shut down all my options. So it was definitely a misplay inking that new world, but I had to play the P and the Hades. So I'm not sure what that turn with Tamatoa. Probably should have just played the Hades, but yeah, this is going to be the misplay, but it's okay. We're going to game 3. And now game 3 starts. I'm on the play. And this is going to be to where, again, going back to our original game plan, right? You want to open up a popsicle, fire the cannons, Hiram, a quill, and that's pretty much it. Oh, also on a 2-drop body. Feeling on the play against this deck, I'm pretty gassed up. I'm like, okay, awesome, this is going to be easy. I draw a ramp, I draw a P, I draw my sad piece. So I'm pretty much getting a really good hand here at the start. And my opponent's here just going to mulligan, thinking what he wants to do, since he already knows. You already played 2 games against the Sapphire Steel deck, and my friend Tristan is very good with his deck, so he already knows what he needs to combat me back. And I really do like the Hannah Montana list. I think it has a 50-50% matchup into everything. The reason why I think it's also the best deck in the format, or at least I can say the best version of Sapphire and Steel, is because this list again has 50-50 matchup, but the most important part is on the draw against red blue. I feel like I am more favored compared to other lists. So here I do ink the P and play a popsicle, pretty simple, and I'm expecting my opponent just to drop a Robin Hood or a Cinderella. So he's gonna go ahead and ink that Robin Hood and more than likely play another one, or again play that Cindy and plays that Robin Hood. So let's see here if I open up fire the cannons this time. I do open up my ramp, which is perfect. I'm going to ink a popsicle and play a hook. The reason why I play the hook there is just because so I can have a body to contest any lore gaining, because again, every lore matters in this game, so you have to pretty much stop it at all costs. So my opponent's going to go ahead and ink Ursula and play 2 Cinderellas. Interesting. My turn going to 4 ink here. You want to play the Quill, you want to play a Hiram, but instead I do something that's also very nice, and I get to play 2 bodies out. I get to play Calhoun and Sami just to contest his board. I could have quested with the Captain Hook, but I think I wanted to force him to have the Let the Storm the Rage on. You could argue there that I probably should have just quested, but forcing him to sing that Cinderella and not like a Strength of the Raging Fire or something like that to get rid of Calhoun. So I do force him to Let the Storm the Rage on and kill my Hook, but that's fine. We have Calhoun, we have Sami just to fight back if he decides to quest. So here he goes into the Robin Hood. He has no more ink available, and he's gonna go ahead and sing Whole New World. He gets rid of a Whole New World in my hand and a Hiram, which is fine because that Whole New World is dead. The Hiram would have been pretty good, but now I get a whole new 7, and he was hoping, I guess, to draw into some removal with that other Cinderella, but he did not. So that's a really good sign for me. I go ahead and ink the Fishbone Quill there, and I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of a Cinderella and gain 2. And now I'm thinking in this spot, okay, he gave me a brand new 7. What can I do here just to make sure I close the gap out? Because he has a big body on board, which is a singer, and that Cinderella is there. So I'm going to go ahead and play that Fishbone Quill. Again, this is what you always want to do. You want to make sure you put that quill out so you can just pretty much out-resource your opponent, and they're just not going to be able to answer those big bodies. So I'm going to play Vision the Future, trying to dig for a high end, trying to dig for a big body here just to set up my following turn. I have that Calhoun exerted. That Smee is there just ready to attack or ready to quest. Again, just going to use that Fishbone Quill, and then my favorite card against this matchup, I'm going to go use that Popsicle, and I have 1 ink left, and that's going to be that Fire of the Cannons to get rid of that Cinderella. Beautiful. So now I have 2 cards to his 1 Robin Hood. I'm gonna get to a lot of ink next turn. He only has 4 ink at this point. So here he can just pretty much attack into the Calhoun, gain 2 lore, and also play Rapunzel and get some draws. But I think that's fine, right? Because if he does that, he wastes his whole turn doing that, and then next turn I'm gonna go ahead and get to 9 ink, and I can just start popping off at this point. You do need to play around Rapunzels, but depending on your hand and depending on what you're trying to do, if you force your opponent for those Rapunzel trades, you can actually stop them from trying to put more bodies out on the board or gain like a lot of lore, right? So I'm fine with him drawing 3 cards because at this point I'm just gonna overwhelm him. He can have all the songs that he wants, but if he doesn't have a lot of bodies on board to fight back, then it's pretty much not gonna do anything. So here I'm deciding what I want to do. I have 7 ink. 7 ink to use. I have this me that's just there. And really, again, at this point, I want to either put multiple bodies out or answer his bodies. And let's see how I'm going to do that here. Ideally, if I can get rid of both of them, I mean, that would be perfect. But if I can't, just setting up a Pete and then like another Smee and a Hiram would be pretty good. Just because if I do play like a Tinkerbell here or something like that, he can just Zeus it. So I have the Simba. And since the Simba can't deal, well, the Simba can deal 2 damage or something on the board, but there's really no point, so I decide just to filter. I need more cards in my hand, and if you notice, I did not ink that turn at all. I just stayed at 7 ink, which is kind of scary. I believe at that point I wanted to keep all the cards in my hand, but not inking is just awkward because that's the whole point. But I'm so ahead of my opponent in ink that I feel like it's okay just to do that. So here my opponent decides to play the aerial, and he's gonna think of what to grab, and it looks like we see a Strength of the Raging Fire. Again, that's what I like about the Simba having that 7 willpower. It's just very strong. You need multiple songs to get rid of him compared to just one, like Tinkerbell. So my opponent plays the aerial. He has the Robin Hood, has the Rapunzel out, and if my Simba lives, I'm in a good spot just because he can fight back, he can attack, or he can sing songs. So he decides just to quest and pass turn. So now I'm thinking, okay, good. My Simba lived. He couldn't get rid of it. He has you could say 3 singers, but really the Ariel and the Robin Hood are just what's important. He decides not to quest with the Rapunzel just because it can get one-shotted by the Simba, so smart move on him. So I'm going to go ahead and Zeus the Ariel, and then I'm going to go ahead and Hades that Robin Hood. And I think this is where, this is a misplay on my part. The whole point of having the Fishbone Cool, right, is to be ahead of your opponent on ink. And the reason why I decided to Hades do Robin Hood was just because I didn't want to get him a draw. And I think in hindsight, that was just a horrible play. I should have just Zeus the Robin Hood, Smee crashed into the Robin Hood, and then Hades the Ariel. That way he stays at low ink. And I'm not sure why I cared about him having an extra card. Because that Smee has just been on the board for 3 turns and it hasn't done anything. Again, I'm not sure why I did that. Oh, I know why I did that. I just didn't want him to get a draw. But giving him 2 ink is definitely going to be very unfortunate. So he plays that aerial and he finds the world's greatest criminal mind and punishes me and killing my Simba. And now he's just putting another Smee on board. He's questing out and he's going to pass turn. So here, if I can just get like a Tinkerbell or Swords, if I can do both and just wipe the Smees in the aerial, I'm going to be in a good spot. But that Rapunzel having that 5 willpower is crazy. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the Smee and pop a Popsicle to heal it and then drop Tamatoa to get back that Popsicle. So here I just want to develop a big guy on board that can hit for 5. The Smee is still there, still hasn't done anything. And I'm going to heal the Hades again. But yeah, I think that play with the Zeus and the Hades, it was just bad giving him that much ink because he already had so many cards in his hand. I'm not sure why I cared about giving him an extra card, but that's fine. We have Tomato out, we have the Hades, and we have a Smee, and we still have a couple cards in our hand. So he's gonna go ahead and attack and then play another Rapunzel. That's a lot of draws he's getting. He's getting a lot of cards in his hand. Now he has a lot of options to as far as like removal and songs. And at this point, I need to make sure my Tamatoa sticks just because I need to be able to fight this board back. If not, I'm going to be in a very bad spot. And the unfortunate thing is, like, that Smee just hasn't done anything. So my opponent doesn't play Pete. He plays all his guys on board. And now he's just thinking if he wants to quest or not to quest. And I'm letting him decide. And he's going to play one more Barty out and then pass. So he has all these guys on board. And maybe he didn't want to do it just because he's like, well, if my opponent has Swords here, I'm pretty much dead. So Swords, Tinkerbell here will pretty much just win me the game. I do activate Visions of the Future, trying to find some answer that I could here. And not sure what I grabbed there, but I think I saw a whole new world there. And I think in theory, I probably should have grabbed the whole new world here just because you need to be able to play Tinkerbell and swords. So I'm going to use Fishbone Quill to gain a couple more ink there. But I guess in hindsight, I probably should have just grabbed that whole new world to sing and try to find a Tinkerbell and sword. So I did find that Tinkerbell, but I don't have a sword. Unless that Vision of the Future was a Tinkerbell, can't exactly remember, but I needed Tinkerbell swords in that spot specifically. That would have just sealed the deal and won me the game. Sure, his Rapunzel would have lived, but it would have killed everything else, and I would have had all these guys on board. So that's probably another misplay. In that moment, I'm just trying to not give my opponent more answers than what he already has. Just because, like, that play that he did last turn, I was like, well, if he would have got rid of anything, he would have just done it last turn. But he has too many cards at this point. And with the amount of bodies that he has, his Strength of the Raging Fire can just pretty much answer anything on my board. I'm just hoping that my Tinkerbell gets to live, or he has to commit to the Tamatoa or the Tinkerbell, so he has to decide what he wants to do. I finally decide to quest with that Smee all late after like 5 turns. But I mean, that's just, I mean, what happens, right? That's the thing about Sapphire and Steel. You have so many different lines of plays that in the moment you really just need to slow down and think about it. So my opponent does have enough bodies to get rid of the Tamatoa. He slams down that Pete to stop me from questing. I mean, stop me from playing any actions. He's gonna go ahead and quest with everything that he has, and he's gonna pass turn. With the amount of lore that he's at right now, I pretty much really can't do anything. I probably only could have came back again with the swords. Here I can trade with a couple of bodies. Tinkerbell can kill 2 things just because of her effect, so I can get rid of, and essentially I can get rid of 4 bodies. But the lore is too high on my opponent's end, where it's just not gonna matter. And unfortunately, my opponent gets to win off that misplay that I had, and he ends up taking it. So super intense match. Definitely a couple misplays looking back at it. But you know that's what happens. I don't mind. I was able to win my Scar mat. I got half a box. Got my Scar promo and had a good time overall. I will be posting my round matchups in the description. I was able to 2-0 all my opponents in Swiss that day, and also the following day I went to another Sword Championships Cascade Games on Sunday, and I was also able to 2-0 all my opponents in Swiss. So that just proves how strong this deck is on the draw. I hope you guys did enjoy this match. I hope you enjoyed the commentary. Go ahead and leave a comment. Let me know what you guys thought. Like the video. And if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It definitely means a lot and helps the channel grow. Thank you, and hope you guys have a good day.